Welcome to the Idle Talk podcast. My name is Peyton, and I am joined by my co-host, Jacob. You can say hi, Jacob.
Hey, what's up?
We are starting a podcast about Survivor, if you didn't gather that from the artwork or anything else related to this podcast. We haven't started recording any videos yet, or audio recordings, but we're wanting to get started, so we figure best place to start is with an introduction to us, kind of get a feel for what the podcast is gonna look like, and then we're just gonna go from there.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to start the podcast as kind of a way to document our journey going through all the seasons of Survivor, as one of the longest running shows in American television.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a good amount of seasons, and so has Peyton, but there's plenty of seasons that we both haven't seen, so we thought it would be fun to start a little podcast documenting our thoughts on each season, kind of have topics for each episode, and talk about some interesting things that happen on each season, and let y'all join our experience as we watch through the seasons of Survivor that we both haven't seen, or one of us has seen and the other hasn't.
Yeah, so up to this point, I've seen, we were kind of counting them up before this, and I counted 15 that I'm confident I've seen, with like a bonus 16th that I think I've seen at least half of. That's the Winners at War one, which, like, I don't know if I finished that season, but I know I saw parts of it.
Yeah, and I've seen 13 seasons, confidently seen 13 seasons. I know I've seen bits and pieces here and there and clips on social media and TikTok especially, but definitely seen 13. And I think the thing that kind of differentiates us is I've seen a lot more of the new age of Survivor, where you've seen a lot more of the old age of Survivor.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, most of my Survivor experience was watching it growing up with my family, and my parents really liked Survivor, and so it was something that they'd be watching, and I kind of got into it, and so I'd watch some seasons with them, but there were some seasons I'd miss. So, like, there'll be like 3 seasons in a row that I see, and then I'll miss one, and then I'll see one, because, like, maybe one of them happened during football season in high school, and so I just didn't get a chance to watch it or something. And then I've seen some of the older ones where I would, like, go back, like my family would go back, and my dad wanted to show me season 1, season 2, and season 3. We watched those 3 in a row because he was like, look at how crazy it used to be compared to where it is now. So I had that experience when I was younger, but I didn't really remember that. So as we're starting, rewatching through all the seasons, and as we watched season 1, I remembered, pieces of it, had some memory of it, but I didn't remember how it all went down. So that was really interesting. But I haven't seen most of the recent seasons, except for like the last 2 I've watched, but a lot of the modern, the new age Survivor, I haven't seen, whereas you've been a lot more up to date recently.
Yeah, the most early memories of Survivor that I have were coming home from youth group in like middle school, coming home from youth group, and my mom would have Survivor on because she would watch Survivor. But even then, that was probably season in the teens, early 20s at that point, by the time that I started realizing what Survivor was. And so I kind of got back into Survivor in college after the pandemic. So I really picked up when season 41 started. That's when I started rewatching Survivor as it came out, rather than watching old seasons. And then in the lulls between the 41 and 42 and things like that, I kind of started to go back and back catalog reversing, so watching season 40, 39, and so on and so forth. But then whenever you expressed that you wanted to watch Survivor with me, thought it would be a good idea to go back to the beginning and kind of watch them chronological to see how the game evolved, instead of just watching what seasons I thought looked interesting, which is kind of what I've been doing up to this point.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we've seen like you've definitely seen Winners at War, right?
Yeah, I've seen 40.
And I think I've seen part of it. I haven't seen the whole thing. But in that season, I mean, it's literally all winners, and we haven't seen all of their seasons. And there's so much like Survivor, so many Survivor moments, and a lot of Survivor lore and moments that, like, especially in the recent seasons where it's all Survivor superfans for the most part. They bring up, random things or allude to things that have happened in the past, and we kind of have to Google what was that. Like I don't remember that, or I haven't seen that season.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of it that we aren't in on.
Yeah, especially like even in the last season when Jake was reading off the clues and the numbers were seasons, and so he used the
Yeah, that was how he remembered them. Yeah.
yeah, he used the winners to remember, and the only ones that I had actually seen was Gabler because he won 43
Mm-hmm.
or 43. Yeah, 43. And so he also listed Tina and JT, which I know those are winners, but I haven't seen their seasons that they won.
You haven't seen JT season.
Mm-mm.
Really interesting. So this is where this actually runs right into a question I was going to ask. I was going to ask, what is the first season of Survivor that you saw? The first one, like, I don't know what the first one I actually saw, but the first season I distinctly remember watching was JT's season. It was Tocantins. Like, that's the first one that I remember watching. And I'm sure I had seen bits and pieces and maybe watched some of something that was happening live with my parents, but Tocantins, and it wasn't live when we watched it. It was one that, like, that season had already happened, but it was sitting down and watching that through with my dad, and we, like, watched through Tocantins. And so, like, I distinctly remember that being, like, my first season, which is why it's one of my favorites. And we'll probably get into that here in a minute, too. But so you haven't seen that. What would you say is, like, what was your kind of first season, or the first season you remember watching?
The first season that I remember watching, that I distinctly remember, I'm pretty sure it was Russell was on Tocantins, right? Or was
No, he was Samoa.
Okay, so then Samoa was the first season that I remember seeing on TV, was because I distinctly remember Russell. That was my first ever experience with Survivor. That was the first season I ever remember seeing pieces of. The first season that I think I watched completely through was honestly 41. I don't think before that I had never sat down and watched a season as it premiered, and then streaming more became a relevant thing when, or sorry, let me correct myself. 41 was not the first season I watched all the way through. The first season I watched all the way through was Cagayan, because it was released on Netflix before I had Paramount Plus to watch Survivor as it was coming out. Cagayan and Heroes versus Villains came out on Netflix, so I watched Cagayan and Heroes versus Villains before I got Paramount Plus and was able to watch Survivor as it was coming out live. So Cagayan was the first season that I actually watched all the way through, but Samoa is the first season that I have memories of.
Yeah, you remember seeing.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, because, yeah, so Samoa was 19, Heroes versus Villains was 20.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. The first one you kind of remember seeing was 19, and then you, like, some years later watched through, like, 20, the one that happened right after that. I remember watching, because the way that, I distinctly remember we watched Tocantins, Samoa, Heroes versus Villains. In that order, we watched those three, because it's 18, 19, 20. They, like, run right into one another. So it makes a nice viewing experience to watch those three, because you can watch, you know, JT's season, you can watch Russell's season, and then you can watch Heroes versus Villains, where JT pities Russell.
Yeah.
And there's such an interesting dynamic between the two of them in that season. And then you also have, like, Coach comes from Tocantins, and Tyson, like, all three of them were in Tocantins, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering that properly.
And then you also just have the fact that Russell was coming from a season that no one had watched.
Yeah, and that was the first time. I didn't realize this, but I was reading something about it earlier. It's like, that was the first time that a season was shot back to back, where they shot 19 and then 20. Okay. And so that was something that hadn't happened before. And so because they ended up, for Heroes vs. Villains, they reused a lot of challenges and stuff from Samoa, and they brought back, like, classic Survivor challenges, but they didn't really invent anything new for that season, because, like, the new was the cast that they had back. So it was, like, one of the first times they had done something back to back, and it was only a few weeks between them, so nobody had seen Russell play. He was the new guy on the block, and they didn't really have any idea who he was.
They just knew they put him on the villains track.
Yeah, they knew he was a villain. And so, but, like, I don't have, like, such, like, a really strong memory of, like, when did you watch Heroes versus Villains? Because I haven't seen it since I was young.
Yeah, this had to have been sophomore year of college, I think. So, like, mid pandemic, bored, wanted something to do. And
so, but still pretty recent.
Yeah, definitely more recent.
Yeah, I'm really excited for us to get into, you know, that 18, 19, 20 run.
Yeah, like the golden
of seasons.
age almost.
Like, that's where, like, I think that's where most people have the most fond memories of Survivor. And I definitely put like Heroes vs. Villains in my favorite seasons, even though I don't remember a lot, like everything that happens there. I just remember that experience of watching it and being like, this show is like something else.
Yeah.
And it's like legit. And then I started watching it live on TV with my parents because I was like, this is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that's where like during high school, there was like Millennials versus Gen X and David versus Goliath and Brain versus Brawn versus Beauty and like all those like seasons where I was watching all of those with my family as they were happening live. And so I remember those and having a lot of fun. I had another follow-up question that I thought of. Oh, okay, yeah. So, all right, I'm looking forward to hitting those 3 seasons, but I've seen them. Are there any seasons that you are particularly looking forward to watching that you have not seen yet, and you're interested because you either know the winner, you know something that happens, you've just heard a lot of hype around it?
Yeah.
Are there any ones that you specifically are looking forward to watching as we go through all 40, I guess we're going to go through 43 seasons because we watched 44 and 45 together.
I think for sure one that I'm really excited to watch is Brains versus Bronze versus Beauty 2. So the first one that I have watched is Kagayan, and I've seen that one. That was the first time they did that concept for the tribes.
Yeah, so Koa Wrong.
Yeah, so really excited for that one because I know like Aubrey is a really popular player, so I'm excited to see her game, and then I know Michelle wins, but she's a really controversial winner. Yeah. So I'm excited to watch it to like see what my take on it is do I think Michelle deserved the win? Do I think Aubrey should have won? Because I know a lot of people think Aubrey's kind of the main character of that season.
Yeah. Well, her and Ty. I remember watching that. Like, that was one of those seasons I watched live, and we were just, we were so convinced Aubrey was winning. Yeah. It was just like, this is, like, they are lining it up for Aubrey to win this whole thing. She was going to be, like, immediately, like, a top 5 winner in Survivor history. It was just like, we were like, this is so cool, so epic. And then it went to Michelle, and we were just like, what? Yeah. It was just, and that was the collective reaction of the whole, world that was actually, invested, probably just America for the most part, but that were invested was like, really? Yeah. Like, it was kind of weird. So, yeah, I'm interested to revisit that now, especially because I only saw it when I watched it live. So going back and watching through it, knowing how it plays out might change the perception of it.
And then I also think another season that I'm really excited to see, like concept-wise, I'm really excited to see One World, because I think that's a really cool concept, how they all are, even though they're separate tribes, they already start on the same beach. I think that's really cool. And then I'm also really excited to see Blood versus Water, because I think that's a really cool concept of a season, playing with
Blood
family
versus
members.
Water was a really fun season to watch. I remember that one. There's a lot of really, really crazy moments in that season. That are super fun.
I think I know who wins that. I can't remember her name, but I think, or no, can't remember if she does win or not. I can't remember who wins Blood versus Water, but I feel like I know who the winner is.
I don't remember either. I just remember that I was rooting for Tyson. Yeah. That's what I remember. I was rooting for Tyson. Like, Tyson, if we get into like our favorite Survivor players, Tyson's on my list. Like, I love Tyson.
But then kind of like similar question to you, is there any, but kind of flipped, is there any season that you're excited to watch with me that you have seen, that like what happens, so you're like, oh, that's going to be so cool when he watches that?
I don't know of any that I have seen, but I know what happens in a lot of the seasons, and even if I haven't seen them, like I haven't seen season 4, Marquesas, but I'm really excited to watch it because I know what happens in that season, and that's the season with the Purple Rock. Yeah, and you don't know what that is.
I don't. I'm sure that they, if people listen, I'm sure that they, if they're big Survivor fans, they know what the Purple Rock is, and you were talking about the other day. I have no clue what the Purple Rock is. Somehow I have not been exposed to that on social media, even though
just try not to talk about it. Just try not to talk about it near your phone so it doesn't pop up on TikTok. Because I think that's gonna just be fun, because it's one of those things where it's just like a crazy thing that happened, and it's just a notorious moment in Survivor. I don't know if it's gonna be that big of a deal when you're watching through it and you don't know about it, but it's something that I feel like has just been played up forever. But I haven't seen that, so like I'm excited to see that, and I think that's gonna be an interesting one to see with you. I am excited to watch like Token Cheens is so fun. Like, I think that's an epic season, so I'm excited to watch back through that one. But I don't know about any others where I'm like super excited, because I don't remember a lot from a lot of them. Yeah. Because I watched them so long ago that I don't have the best memory of all the seasons. So I feel like I'm partially watching these all for the first time, but I remember bits and pieces. And I may know who wins, but I don't know everything that leads up to the winner.
Yeah, you don't know why they win. You don't know like what the motivations are for the jury to vote for them and
Yeah,
stuff like
well,
that.
and honestly, like the thing that I think I really like about Survivor is that oftentimes the winner or someone winning Survivor is the least interesting part of the season. Like, sure, that's what it's all building up to, is the ultimate end, who's going to win the season. But it seems like it happens a lot that, the person who wins usually isn't the person you're rooting for. Like with this most recent season, we were kind of rooting for Emily.
Yeah. And then she got voted.
And she got voted out pretty
seventh.
early.
Yeah, she got 7th place.
And so then it was just kind of like, oh, well, now we're just going to keep watching. But, I mean, all the best parts of the season had her involved, in some way. And so I think, like, part of what makes Survivor fun is everything that leads up to the end and all the strategy and all the stuff. And, like, if there's an awesome winner that you really like and you connect with, like, I really liked, like, Cook Islands, which was once called Race Wars, but that name has since been kind of done away with.
Retconned.
But, like that's one where, like, I really love the winner of that season. And so I was really invested in them winning.
Yeah.
But then, like, that's also Parvati's first season. And so, like, she's part of what makes that season so great.
Yeah.
Is, there's so many other things that are involved in these more than just who wins. So, yeah, I think even if you know who wins a season, it doesn't impact your ability to watch it through.
Yeah.
Because, like, we just watched through Survivor 1.
Yeah, and we both
and
knew
we know
who
wins.
We both knew who won going into it, but that didn't take away from the viewing experience and more just understanding why the jury voted for Rich and getting to see his journey. And I think even watching a season knowing who wins, you kind of go into it kind of hyper focusing on that person, and you can kind of just watch them and see how their gameplay kind of evolves. And I think it's kind of cool analyzing it from that perspective instead of going in not knowing who wins, especially since like it's a rerun. So you can kind of get that firsthand experience of, okay, I know who wins. Why do I think they won this entire season?
Yeah, I wonder that, like, it's one thing where it's like, all right, so we don't need it to be a secret who wins for us to enjoy it. I think that we can agree on that. I wonder though, like, I'll just say with season 1, because we just watched that together, if you went into it not knowing that Richard won, would you be happy with the outcome of it? Do you think you would have been rooting for him? Do you think you would have rooted for someone else? Like, it's hard to say, like, we can't really put ourselves in the mind frame of people who watched it when it came out and they'd never seen Survivor before. And we'll really dive into this when we do an episode about Borneo. But do you think if we were watching it through, I guess, because we can't put ourselves in that state of mind, but like today, if you didn't know, you're able to wipe that from your memory, do you think he's who you would have rooted for? Would you have rooted for someone else?
I think if we're talking in the context of modern Survivor, where we're analyzing it from a game perspective and the show kind of has evolved into what it is today and not what it was then.
Yeah.
I think I would have been rooting for Richard because of how he played.
Yeah, he played the most modern game of anyone. Like, I mean, he shaped the way that Survivor was played every season after.
I think if I could place myself into 2000 watching this when it was coming out, I don't think I would have rooted for Richard, because I think I would have had the same mentality that a lot of people had back then, where alliances feel dirty. I wouldn't want to lie to people. I'd want to play with integrity. And you can I still feel like Richard played with integrity as much as you can in that situation. But at the same time, if I was in 2000 and I was watching this live, I don't think I would have rooted for Richard, because I think I personally would have like been against those sort of things, because that's just how it was back then. People didn't view it as a game. People view it as, these are people interacting with each other, and being cutthroat is viewed as just being kind of a dirty person.
Yeah, I think that's like a pretty big distinction when we're looking at these older seasons. Is like, I mean, it was a complete. It's not even a different era of Survivor. We've talked about this a few times as we watch through it. It is a different game. It's not even a game for the first season, at least, where it's like the only one playing a game is Richard. The rest of them are just surviving, and like they're doing the relational thing. They're just kind of vibing out there. They don't know what to expect, but they're not playing for $1,000,000. They're surviving for $1,000,000. And Richard is out there like he's playing for it. He's approaching it as if it's a chess match, and nobody else out there is even remotely aware of what chess is.
Yeah, I mean, even in the reunion that we just watched, them talking about how he was the only one that came in with a plan.
Mm-hmm.
All the other ones were just like, I'm going to see how it goes, and I don't really want to take sides. I'm just going to vote with my heart. I'm going to vote with my conscience. Or you have
going to vote in
Sean,
alphabetical.
who votes in alphabetical order. But then Rich was the only one who really came in with a plan and was methodical about it and premeditated in what he was going to do. So I think, yeah, looking at it now, I understand that he definitely deserved to win based on how he played the game. So,
yeah. Are there any other seasons that you're looking forward to seeing? I know one for me is I'm really excited to see Pearl Islands. I want to see Sandra win her first one because I'm a Sandra hater, but purely because I really wanted, like, I felt like Russell should have won. Russell should have won Samoa, and then I think him or Parvati should have won.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been Sandra for Heroes.
Should have won Heroes versus Villains, and that's me just having seen those two seasons, not seen Sandra's first season. So I want to see like her first win because I think that will change the way that'll inevitably change the way we view Heroes versus Villains, because everyone that is playing Heroes versus Villains that is voting has seen her first season. They have seen Pearl Islands. So I'm wondering if seeing that season changes my perception of her and changes how I experience that season. And like having seen, that's something I'm really excited about for seeing Heroes versus Villains when we get to it, is that I will have seen all 19 seasons of Survivor that come before it, which last time I saw it, I had not. I had seen 2, So it was something where I couldn't really appreciate all of these players because I hadn't seen their prior game. So I'm really excited for that, but very specifically excited for Pearl Islands as well as All Stars. I'm just really interested because I haven't seen that season, but I know that's the Rob and Amber Showman's one. So I'm really interested to see how that actually plays out in the season, especially now knowing that they're still married 20 years later.
On the topic of kind of players we're excited to see them win, I'm really excited to see Parvati's first win. I've seen bits and pieces of seasons that she's been. I've seen Heroes versus Villains, obviously, but her first win, I can't remember. It was fans versus favorites was her first win. So I'm really excited to see her first win. That's why I think another season I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I am for sure, because I've seen Cook Islands, and then I've seen Heroes versus Villains, but I haven't seen Micronesia. So I'm also excited to see how she played through that one.
Yeah. And even though I haven't seen, kind of on that subject of Parvati, I guess, even though I haven't seen the 2 prior seasons that she was on, I have seen Heroes versus Villains, and I think she probably should have won that season, her or Russell, but I think I would give the edge to her. And I think she's probably one of my favorite players, kind of like on the topic of favorite players, because I've seen that season, I've seen Winners at War, which she was also on. So she's for sure kind of in like my top upper echelon of players of seasons that I've seen. I love the way that she plays, and that she's a woman but not afraid to be cutthroat and do what she needs to do to win. So I think she's a really cool player.
Yeah, no, I love Parvati. She's definitely one of my, in my top tier of like favorite Survivor players. Tyson, like I said earlier, is totally up there for me. I just love him in Tocantins, Heroes vs. Villains, and Blood vs. Water are 3 of my favorite seasons, and he's in all of them. So I think I'm inevitably drawn to that, but also just his personality and his play style. And I never really thought he was that villainous, but they put him on the villains. He wasn't a hero, I guess. So whenever you're not outright a hero, they put you in the villains, I guess. But I love Tyson. I'm excited to kind of revisit those seasons. And I also was a really big fan of, Russell, obviously, just he's controversial, and, we'll get there. When we get to those
love
seasons,
him or
but
hate him, you can't deny the impact
Russell
that he's had
is
on
an
the game.
exciting player to watch.
Yeah, I would definitely put Russell in my favorite players as well. Love him or hate him, you can't deny the impact that he's had on the game. He's the reasons that there's no clues for immunity idols anymore, which is crazy to think about. Another player that I think is one of my favorites is Kelly Wentworth. I don't know if you've ever seen any of Wentworth's seasons.
So actually, so my only exposure to Kelly Wentworth is TikTok. That's it. I haven't seen any of her seasons.
She's gotten a pretty big platform from Survivor and kind of has taken off from that. But her season in Cambodia is like really cool. Whenever we get to that, I'm really excited to get to that. I think if she made it to the final tribal council, she would have won. She had an amazing game, and I don't know if you've seen the clip of her idol play, but has one of the most impressive idol plays in Survivor history. Actually has like 2 idol plays that season that are super impressive.
I was seeing a lot of clips of that when Caleb did his idol play in this most recent season.
The shot in the dark.
Yes. Yeah. Or yes, sorry, yeah. Hit the shot in the dark. And so when the Wentworth clip started going around then, I don't really remember it, but I saw it when that happened. So,
yeah. I'd put Wentworth in probably my top players as well.
I would also probably put Aubrey there because I've seen her first season. I really loved her in that, as well as that same season, Ty. I adore Ty. I think he was just such a fun player to watch. So I really enjoyed Ty. So I'm excited to get to that season just because there's a lot of players there that I really am fond of and have great memories of. And then probably JT as well. I think is just a fun player. I mean, he won his season. You already know that, but he won his season. Didn't have a single vote, put against him the whole time. He's just the ultimate hero, the ultimate good guy, the ultimate nice guy of Survivor, which kind of bites him in the butt in Heroes vs. Villains, but he was able to win it,
I was about
being
to say,
good guy,
usually,
which not a lot of people do.
Not a lot of good
rare.
guys win Survivor. As crazy as that is, you kind of can't be the good guy in order to win. You got to be able to do what you got to do in order to get yourself in the position to win. And some people don't want to do that, and that's why they don't win.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch through all these seasons and see how Survivor evolves, grows, and develops. I'm already getting ideas for episodes right now, for different things we can talk about. Like one thing that's coming to mind right now, and I don't want to get into it because it'll take up too much time for this first little pilot. But I'm thinking does Survivor have villains anymore? Are there true villains anymore in Survivor? And I feel like I need to watch all the ones of this new generation. But looking at these last 2 seasons, can you call Caleb a villain? Can you call Jam Jam a villain?
D even has an argument.
People are saying is I just don't know. I can't put them in the same tier as Boston Rob and Russell and Parvati and Tyson. Some of these people who were they were villains. It's hard to put them in that same area. So that's one thing I'm thinking. And as we get through and see all these seasons, I think there's going to be a lot of interesting discussion to come out of it. But is there anything else you want to leave with saying before we call this pilot quits and then come back with a first episode here?
Not that I can think of. I just am really excited to go through all the seasons and get them all under my belt and say that I've seen them all, because it's a show that I've grown to love in the last 2 years and something that we do together that is really fun and a really fun part of our friendship. So excited to do it with you. It's much more fun to watch these kinds of things and with a friend, and also be able to talk about it, and hopefully some people will listen and find what we have to say interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. Our plan for this podcast is we want to watch all the seasons of Survivor. And so, we both have full-time jobs. So we're doing this kind of in our free time, but we're hoping to, put out content, whether that's episodes about each season as we get through them, about characters from the season, challenge, dynamics, the game as it evolves, just whatever we feel like talking about. We're just putting it out there to the world, one, to kind of hold ourselves accountable, to actually get through all of it, because it's a lot of television to get through. We calculated it before, I don't remember, but how many episodes it is for us to get caught up. on all the Survivor. I'm excited for that. I'm also excited because, there are several like good Survivor podcasts out there, but all of them are either people who have played Survivor or a Survivor superfan, which like those are the people that should have a Survivor podcast. I'll get that out of the way right now. Like, yes, they should have a Survivor podcast, but your average person is not that. Your average person is probably like us, and I'd say we're not even your average. Like, I'd say your average American has maybe seen a couple seasons of Survivor, or if they're just getting into Survivor, they're going back and watching the highlights. I know a lot of people, they're like, they watch a season live, they're like, oh my goodness, that was so good, and then they go watch season 1 and they hate it, and then they don't watch anymore. I know that, like, I've seen that around, like, as being a common trajectory people take. So I'm hoping that maybe this podcast could also be for someone who maybe doesn't have time to watch through all the Survivor episodes and stuff, that we can, condense them, summarize them, discuss them, and give insight, have good conversation about it that people like listening to, people can contribute to, and we can use that discussion to, maybe we can do the hard work for people, watch through all the seasons, and then once we get caught up, be able to do, I would love to eventually be doing week-by-week commentary on the episodes with that knowledge of every season. I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff that could come from that, and I think we can take this from a new angle. So I think it'll be exciting.
One final question I do want to ask.
Okay.
If we are to have success and we have listeners and we start to grow,
okay,
and we get the chance to have someone who's played on our podcast,
on the podcast,
who would you want?
Oh man. Okay. Okay. Who has played?
Yes.
Okay. Because my pick it would be Jeff, right?
Yeah.
That's my pick. That's who I want him. Like,
ultimate goal.
I would
Jeff
love.
on the podcast.
I would, even if it's not on the podcast, right? Like, even if it's not recorded, I would just love to like sit down on a Zoom call. I would love to sit in a room with him, like. Season 1, like going to a bar with Jeff Probst as a reward. That's like a dream. I just want to pick his brain and talk with him like about Survivor, like seeing him in season 1 compared to this like most recent season. Like, I mean, it's been over 20 years. Like, a lot has changed. It's been, almost a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of time. And just like how that's affected. Like, there's so much I think I could learn from him and insight. I think it'd be a super fun and cool conversation.
Jeff, if you're listening, get us on your podcast, please.
Yeah, Jeff's not listening. I'm gonna just tell you right now. But yeah, so Jeff would be the ultimate. If we're talking players, I mean, Tyson's obvious, right? Like all the favorites, right? Everyone that I would say is a favorite of mine, like Tyson, Parvati, Russell. I would love. I just don't know how that would go, and I know he's not like big on really talking about Survivor anymore, except for causing drama on Twitter, and I just kind of stay out of that. But once we get around to 19, get to Samoa, maybe we'll get back and engage and see how he's doing these days.
Yeah.
But like, I think that'd be interesting. Don't know how that would go. But if I'm going like outside of like all those, who would I want to interview? And like, I think Dee would be really cool to interview, because I did like the most recent season, and I thought she was great. And she doesn't live far from here, so like we live very close to her. We could, I'd drive to Miami one weekend and interview her. I'm sure you'd go with me. I think that'd be so fun.
100%.
That's not far. We're both based in Florida, if you didn't put that together, if you're listening. But I think like probably the tippy top of the list would be, I think, Ty from Brains versus Bronze Review from Koorong. That season was just like such a joy and so much fun, and like I just don't even think I would talk about Survivor at all. I just want to talk to him. Like, he has done a lot of interesting things in his life. He was such like a cool like inspiration that season. I have totally not kept up. I don't know anything about him now. I'm gonna assume he's still alive. This would be a real big bummer if he wasn't at the time of the recording this, but no, Ty, absolutely. I don't know where he's at, what he's doing, but that would be like an awesome podcast.
Fanboy a little bit.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool. But like, I mean, obviously, like Parvati, like obviously would be so cool. And I mean, there's so many that would be like dream like kind of things to have. All right, okay. What about you? You got to answer before we close out too.
Yeah, so I would definitely agree with your answers, and would love to have the people that I mentioned earlier on the podcast. But another person I would that we've already talked about, I would love to have Emily on this podcast.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I
she would
think
be so funny.
yeah,
Loved her in 40 and 44 or 45, sorry.
45. Yeah,
So, and she's recent, so I feel like she has a lot to say, and especially now that I don't know if you saw, but she said that she doesn't want to play again, and I'm like, no,
interesting.
you got to play again. I need to see you on that screen. I need to see
Yeah,
you take
I mean, I
home the
respect
million.
it too. Her being like, you know what?
Yeah, I respect
did my
it,
time,
but
did my best.
America wants it, Emily.
Yeah.
America wants it. So if you're listening, which I know you're
That's
not,
so
but
funny and so interesting. And maybe, since this most recent season has happened, maybe we'll mix in some episodes about these most recent 2 seasons, because I don't think we're going to watch through those
Yeah.
when we get, it's
Yeah.
going to be a while before we even get to them. But we saw them this last year. So we might do some, and maybe we'll do an episode about her. But in the first episode, you hated Emily.
because
Hated Emily.
and so did her entire tribe.
Yeah.
Her entire tribe didn't like her. And then, I remember you vividly saying, there's no way Survivor gives her the arc of the redemption arc. And then that's precisely
we were
what they did.
coming hot off the heels of Carolyn.
Yeah.
Getting an amazing redemption arc where she went from someone that we were both pretty annoyed with to being one of our favorite characters on that whole season.
Yeah.
I say characters. One of the favorite players on that season. I mean, she is a character too.
Mm-hmm.
She's just awesome. So yeah, no, I agree. Emily would be fun to have. Carolyn would be fun.
And Carson.
That's what I was going to say.
Carson, 100%.
But see, Carson would be fun because I think we could be best friends with Carson.
Oh yeah,
we're
100%.
The same age as him. He's a little younger than us, actually.
Same interests. Hey, I'm an engineer.
Yeah,
he's an engineer.
Yeah, very very aligned interests wise and age, and yeah, I think we could get along with Carson real well. He's into 3D printing. I work for a 3D printing company.
We both own 3D printers.
Yeah, no, it would be dope. No, so yeah, that would be one where it'd be we want the interview, but then we want to meet up for drinks.
Yeah, we just want to be friends with you.
Yeah, we just want to be friends. Yeah, no, that was a great question. I think there's gonna be a lot of cool videos to come. Don't know what they're gonna look like, or I guess sound like. Eventually, we'll probably do video as well. But for now, we hope that maybe this interested you enough, and you're gonna stick around, listen to some future episodes. But that's all we've got. Thank you so much for listening to the first episode, or I guess pilot episode, maybe it's episode 0 is what we'll call it, of Idle Talk. It's a podcast about Survivor, and we're really excited. We hope that you are too.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hope that you'll stick around and listen to what we have to say.
Right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.